Welcome to Heaven of Human. This is the place where we talk about real life, real lessons, and the truths we often ignore. Here, I don't give you empty motivation. I give you perspective, direct, clear, and grounded in reality. Because human growth doesn't come from comfort. It comes from facing the hard truths that shape us into stronger people. So take a deep breath, open your mind, and let's step into today's lesson together.
Have you ever looked at someone's life and thought, they've got everything figured out? Perfect family, perfect career, perfect smile. But if you look closer, long enough, you start to see the cracks behind the light. We live in an age where appearance has replaced authenticity, where people care more about looking good than being good. And when the world rewards image more than integrity, even honest people start to feel like truth doesn't matter anymore. You scroll through social media, you see someone living in luxury, traveling, smiling, and you think they're happier, richer, freer than you. But what if that photo is the only 5 seconds of peace they have in their entire week? What if the luxury car isn't theirs, and the relationship they show online is built on lies and emptiness? The problem isn't that people lie. The problem is that the world listens to the best actor. Society crowns whoever looks confident, not whoever is wise. That's why fakes rise faster, because they understand the stage. They know what the crowd wants to see, and they perform it with precision. Frank Abagnale, the man behind Catch Me If You Can, was once one of the greatest imposters in modern history. He forged checks, posed as a pilot, a lawyer, even professor. He fooled banks, airlines, and governments. But what's more shocking than his crime is how easy it was for the world to believe him. All he needed was the right uniform, the right smile, and the confidence to pretend. That's how fragile our perception of truth really is. And it's not just him. Scammers, fake gurus, even manipulative lovers, they all use the same trick. They wear the costume that fits your trust. A voice that sounds sincere, a lifestyle that looks successful, a quote that sounds deep, and before you realize it, you've handed them not just your money, but your belief in what's real. Why does it work? Because the human brain judges faster than it questions. Our eyes decide before our mind can think. That's why first impression can blind an entire generation, a generation that scrolls faster than it reflects. We trust polished surfaces more than quiet truth. We'd rather feel inspired by a lie than face the discomfort of real life. But here's the paradox. The more you fake, the emptier you become. The more you perform, the less you live. Because a life built on illusion demands constant acting and constant fear. Fear that one day someone might see the real you and not like what they find. This is the tragedy of our time. People don't want to be good, they just want to look good. We measure worth in followers, wisdom in sound bites, and happiness in photos. And yet, behind closed doors, most of these perfect lives are falling apart. Today's truth is simple but hard to swallow. The world we live in runs on performance. But peace, real peace, only begins the moment you stop pretending.
Frank Abagnale's story isn't fiction. It's a mirror. He wasn't born a criminal genius. He was a young boy from a broken home, hurt, abandoned, desperate to prove his worth. And instead of asking for love, he chose performance. He learned that if you looked confident enough, the world would never question you. He forged identities: pilot, lawyer, professor, and people opened doors for him simply because of how he looked. A clean uniform, a firm handshake, a perfect smile. That's all it took. Not proof, not truth, just presentation. And that same pattern rules the modern world. Call center scammers wear headsets, sit behind fake office walls, and speak in voices trained to sound official. Ponzi leaders rent luxury cars, stage photos in five-star hotels, and preach about freedom while stealing from the hopeful. Influencers copy-paste other people's wisdom, call themselves life coaches, and sell mindset they don't even live by. They aren't smarter than you, they're just better at acting. Because humans, by design, are visual judges. We don't verify, we believe what's shiny. Our brains evolved to read symbols, the uniform, the ring, the car, the tone of voice, and decide who's safe, powerful, or right. That instinct once helped us survive. Now, it's the reason people go broke chasing illusions. One day, I met a woman who looked wealthy online. Her feed was filled with fine dining, beach resorts, and designer bags. People admired her, envied her, trusted her enough to join a money circle she organized, a private savings scheme. What they didn't know was that those fancy meals belonged to her employer, a rich businesswoman. She was the assistant, not the owner. She rented a small room, rode an old motorbike, and lived paycheck to paycheck. But the mask worked. 99% of her victims were people who only knew her from the screen. When the lie collapsed, the money was gone, and so was she, behind prison walls. That's the cost of believing with our eyes. A well-crafted image can hypnotize entire crowds. We don't ask, is it real? We only ask, how does it make me feel? And feelings, unguarded, are easy to manipulate. Even the smallest details, a uniform, a logo, a title, change how we treat someone. A security guard in a suit becomes Sir. A man in slippers becomes invisible. Two people walk into the same restaurant, one in a sports car, one on a motorcycle, and get two completely different smiles from the waiter. That's how shallow perception is. And scammers know it. They build illusions because illusions sell. This is why fake mentors rise faster than true teachers, why fraud looks fashionable, why the honest struggle to be heard. Because truth whispers, but lies come with a spotlight. We now live in a generation that filters pain, poses for peace, and calls it happiness. People spend hours editing reality, but no time facing it. They curate moments, crop out the mess, and end up living a highlight reel of someone they wish they were. It's not always malicious, sometimes it's survival. When the world demands perfection, you perform to stay accepted. You wear the mask because taking it off means facing judgment, rejection, and maybe loneliness. But pretending has a price. Every lie you wear tightens around your soul like a rope. Soon you can't breathe without it. You forget who you are underneath. And that's where most people are now. Performing, exhausted, smiling for likes, dying for meaning. Not because they're evil, but because the world never taught them that peace comes from truth, not applause.
The mind is a powerful machine, but it was never designed for truth. It was designed for survival. In the early world, quick judgment kept us alive. If someone looked strong, healthy, confident, we trusted them. If they looked weak or uncertain, we stepped back. Appearance once meant safety. Now that same instinct is being hijacked. We're still using prehistoric software to navigate a digital jungle. Our eyes are trained to read symbols faster than reality. That's why a man in uniform feels more credible than a man in plain clothes, even before he speaks. It's why luxury brands sell more than quality brands. They sell status signals that bypass reason and go straight into emotion. Every time we scroll through a screen, the brain collects micro-impressions. Smiles, lights, filters, posture, all small cues that tell us who's winning. And because we compare by sight, we start measuring life through images instead of experiences. That's how illusion becomes culture.
Psychologists call this the halo effect. When one good trait, looks, charm, wealth, creates the illusion of many others. A handsome liar seems trustworthy. A wealthy thief seems smart. A confident manipulator seems wise. We don't see people, we see projections of what we want them to be. And when we want to believe, we stop asking questions. Social media has turned this bias into a business model. Every post is a performance. Angles, lighting, tone, timing, designed to make us feel envy or admiration. Every like is a small dose of approval that teaches our brain, this is who I should become. We learn to copy the surface, not the soul. So when someone shows up with the right image, the coach in a suit, the influencer on a jet, the speaker quoting philosophy, our subconscious whispers, this person must know something I don't. And before logic enters the room, trust is already given away. That's why deception feels so convincing. It doesn't need facts, it needs familiar signals. The scammer doesn't look dangerous, he looks organized. The fake guru doesn't sound foolish, he sounds certain. Certainty is magnetic, and the lost are always drawn to those who seem sure. But awareness begins the moment you pause, the moment you ask, why do I believe this? Who benefits from this image? Would I still admire this person if I knew nothing about what they own? Those questions dismantle illusions faster than anger ever will. Remember this, your eyes report what's visible, but your wisdom must decide what's true. Most people stop at seeing. Few go on to understanding. And that's why truth looks dull. It doesn't perform. It just waits for those who are ready to notice.
The mask begins as protection. At first, you wear it to survive, to fit in, to be liked, to be accepted. You tell yourself it's harmless. If everyone's pretending, maybe I should too. And for a while, it works. People smile at you more. They compliment what they see, not who you are. And that feels good, intoxicating even. But soon, the applause becomes addictive. You start to build your identity around perception. You no longer ask, am I happy? You ask, do I look happy? You no longer ask, do I live with purpose? You ask, do they think I'm successful? It's a subtle shift, but it changes everything. You begin performing instead of living. And when performance becomes habit, truth becomes a threat. Behind every flawless smile is a quiet exhaustion. Behind every motivational post is the fear of being forgotten. Because when your worth depends on visibility, silence feels like death. That's the trap most people don't see. The cost of pretending is your peace. You lose sleep trying to maintain an image that was never meant to carry your soul. The saddest part? The longer you wear the mask, the more you lose yourself beneath it. People start to love the version of you that doesn't exist, and every compliment cuts a little deeper because they know they're not talking about you, they're talking about the illusion. You begin to wonder, if they knew the real me, would they still stay? That question becomes the heaviest burden of all. There's also the mental toll, the constant anxiety of exposure. You have to keep editing your story, matching every new lie to the last one. You avoid people who've known you too long because they remember a version you've buried. You dread conversations that get too personal because they might touch a part of you you've tried to erase. The mask keeps you safe, but only from connection. It's ironic. The more you try to impress the world, the more you isolate yourself from it. You attract attention, not intimacy. Followers, not friends. Validation, not understanding. And when the lights turn off, you realize you've built a life where everyone loves the actor, but no one knows the human. Even success, when built on illusion, becomes a prison. You can't rest because the mask must always stay perfect.
You can't heal because vulnerability would ruin the character. You can't grow because growth requires honesty. And honesty destroys disguise. That's why so many people break down right after achieving everything they ever wanted. Fame, money, beauty, none of it feels the silence that comes when you can't recognize your own reflection. Eventually, the mask becomes heavier than the fear it hides. And one day you wake up exhausted, not from working too hard, but from pretending for too long. That's when something inside you whispers, "I just want to be real again." That whisper is not weakness. It's your soul asking for air. Because the truth is, you were never meant to perform to be loved. You were meant to live, to fail, to learn, to be seen as you are.
If you want to understand why people keep pretending, don't just look at the individual, look at the system. We live in a world that pays more for appearance than essence. A world where attention is the new currency, and truth rarely goes viral. Think about it. We reward beauty over character, confidence over competence, popularity over purpose. We celebrate the loud, the shiny, the well-branded. The quiet ones, the ones doing the real work, they rarely make it to the front page. A person who looks successful gets opportunities before a person who is capable. A company with perfect marketing sells more than one with honest craftsmanship. A post with filters gets more love than a moment of raw vulnerability. And that's the message we all absorb. Don't be real, be appealing. It starts early. Children learn that the best way to be noticed is to perform, not to be genuine. In schools, grades matter more than growth. In workplaces, presentation matters more than contribution. We teach people to smile for cameras, but not to face themselves in mirrors. By the time they become adults, pretending feels normal. Truth feels dangerous. This culture doesn't just tolerate masks, it manufactures them. Every advertisement says, "You're not enough yet." Every trend says, "Change yourself again." Every platform says, "Show me something impressive." So we comply. We buy what we don't need to prove what we're not. We measure our value in hearts, views, and applause. We treat authenticity like a liability, and illusion like a survival skill. But the problem isn't just social media. It's the human hunger behind it, the need to belong, to matter, to be seen. We crave recognition because we mistake it for love. And when love feels scarce, even fake approval tastes better than loneliness. That's why people chase virality, not because they're evil, but because in a noisy world, silence feels like invisibility, and invisibility feels like death. Society doesn't just reward illusion, it punishes truth that doesn't sell. Speak gently and they ignore you. Speak honestly and they attack you. Show your wounds and they call you weak. But lie beautifully and they'll make you a leader. So people adapt. They wear whatever mask gets applause. The businessman acts humble online. The preacher acts perfect in public. The influencer acts happy while drowning in emptiness. And when they finally break down, the world asks, "What happened?" As if it never demanded the performance in the first place. This is how the cycle sustains itself. The audience praises the illusion, and the actor keeps performing to survive. We all play our part, some consciously, some blindly. Because if truth doesn't pay the bills, illusion becomes the job. But here's the quiet truth hiding under all this noise. No system can save a person who forgets themselves. The world might keep selling masks, but you still choose whether to wear one. And every time you choose honesty over approval, you weaken the system's power a little more. The world will always admire performance, but the soul only respects truth. And at the end of your life, it's not the audience that remembers you. It's the conscience that won't let you forget who you became.
You can't change the fact that people wear masks, but you can change the way you see them. Real wisdom isn't about judging faster, it's about judging deeper. To see beyond appearances, you must first slow down your perception. When the world moves too fast, deception thrives. Because the truth doesn't shout, it waits. That's why silence and observation are powerful tools. Listen longer than others talk. Watch how people behave when there's nothing to gain. Pay attention to patterns, not performances. The truth always leaks through behavior. Someone can fake charm, but not consistency. They can pretend humility, but not patience. They can borrow words of wisdom, but not the calm that comes from living them. So when you meet someone new, don't just listen to what they say. Watch what they repeat. Repetition reveals character. The same applies to the digital world. Before you admire someone online, ask yourself, do they live the values they speak? Do they grow, or do they just perform growth? Authentic people evolve. You can feel it in their silence, their mistakes, their humility. Pretenders, on the other hand, stay predictable. They recycle quotes and chase trends because they fear losing relevance more than losing themselves. Learning to see beyond appearance also means learning to control your emotional reactions. Scammers, manipulators, and fake mentors all survive on emotional shortcuts. They want you to feel amazed, inspired, or afraid, anything that stops you from thinking. So before you believe what you see, pause and breathe. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way? Is this truth or just clever design? That one breath can save you from years of regret. Remember, truth feels quiet. It doesn't rush you. It doesn't sell urgency or pressure. It invites you to understand, not to obey. The louder something demands your attention, the more skeptical you should become. The art of discernment begins with neutrality. Don't rush to like or hate. Hold both possibilities at once, that someone might be good and flawed, that something might look real and still deceive. Wisdom lives in the space between extremes. To see beyond appearances, you must also look beyond your desires. We don't just believe lies because they're convincing, we believe them because we want them to be true. The dream of quick success, effortless love, instant transformation, those fantasies make our logic fall asleep. So the real challenge is not spotting liars, it's confronting our own wishful thinking. When you stop chasing perfection, you stop falling for those who fake it. When you stop needing approval, you stop mistaking validation for love. And when you stop believing everything that feels good, you start recognizing what's actually good. That's how you reclaim your vision in a world of illusions. Not by shutting your eyes to beauty, but by teaching your eyes to see truth inside it. Because once you learn to read the soul beneath the surface, no costume, no title, no performance can ever fool you again.
There is a strange silence that follows truth. When you finally stop performing, the noise of the world doesn't disappear, it just stops mattering. You begin to realize that peace was never hiding in applause, it was waiting in honesty. Living without a mask doesn't mean revealing everything. It means you no longer live against yourself. You no longer wake up each morning to maintain an image that doesn't fit your soul. You speak slower. You choose fewer words, but every one of them is real. You stop chasing approval because authenticity has already approved you. At first, it feels uncomfortable. When you drop the act, you lose the crowd. People who liked your performance may walk away when the show ends. Let them. Because when pretense leaves your life, space opens for truth to enter. Real friends replace spectators. Meaning replaces noise. The freedom begins quietly. You start laughing without checking who's watching. You dress for comfort, not comparison. You speak what's right, not what's popular. And slowly, you feel something returning. Dignity. The kind that no spotlight can give and no criticism can take away. But there's another gift inside this freedom. Clarity. When you stop acting, you start seeing. You notice beauty in simplicity. You realize most conflicts are illusions built on insecurity and ego. You discover that success without peace is failure in disguise. And you begin to measure life not by how it looks, but by how it feels to live it. People often ask, if I stop pretending, won't I lose everything? Maybe, but only what was never real to begin with. The relationships that depend on your mask were never love, only performance contracts. The respect that came from illusion will vanish, yes, but in its place, you'll earn something purer, self-trust. When you can look in the mirror and see the same person the world sees, you no longer need to hide. Freedom without authenticity is chaos. Authenticity without courage is fragile. But when you pair truth with bravery, you become untouchable. Criticism hurts less, comparison fades, and even failure feels cleaner because it's yours. This freedom also transforms how you connect with others. When you no longer compete in appearances, you start meeting people soul to soul. You listen more. You empathize deeper. You stop trying to win conversations and start building understanding. You stop networking and start relating. Because truth doesn't need strategy, it needs presence. To live without a mask is to live light. No lies to maintain, no double lives to protect, no anxiety about being found out. You become aligned, inside and out. That alignment is power. Not the loud kind that intimidates, but the quiet kind that calms every room you walk into. And once you taste that calm, you'll never trade it for applause again. Because pretending is exhausting, but being real is effortless. The world may not reward you for it, but your soul will thank you every day.
The world changes only when individuals change what they reward. Deception survives because it's profitable. It feeds on admiration, attention, and ignorance. But the moment people start valuing substance over shine, the entire system loses its power. It begins in small places, in homes, classrooms, and conversations. When a parent praises a child for honesty instead of perfection, a mask falls. When a teacher values curiosity over memorization, another mask falls. When a leader admits a mistake publicly, the crowd learns that truth doesn't destroy respect, it earns it. We can't eliminate pretense overnight, but we can stop feeding it. Every time you refuse to idolize an illusion, you starve the culture of deceit. When you buy from businesses that act with integrity, when you follow people who show their flaws, when you share stories that speak truth instead of trends, you shift the current of this world, even if just slightly. It's easy to complain about fake people, but harder to live so honestly that pretense can't exist near you. Truth doesn't need speeches, it needs examples. Be the kind of person whose transparency makes others feel safe to be real too. That's how authenticity multiplies, by permission, not pressure. The future will always tempt you with shortcuts, with filters, exaggerations, and the illusion of instant success. But remember this, every lie buys comfort for today and debt for tomorrow. Truth may cost you approval now, but it gives you a peace that no audience can take. Imagine a world where people choose sincerity over spectacle, where influence is earned through integrity, not image, where looking rich is replaced by living right. That world is possible, not because technology will evolve, but because you will. Every decision to live honestly is a small rebellion against an artificial age. When enough people value truth, fakery becomes unfashionable. When enough hearts choose depth, shallow living loses its appeal. And when enough voices stop clapping for illusion, the stage lights on deception finally dim. So start with yourself.
Choose to be real even when it's unpopular. Choose to listen before judging. Choose to forgive before pretending. Because peace doesn't begin with systems, it begins with souls brave enough to be sincere. And the day the world starts respecting quiet truth more than loud lies, that's the day humanity finally grows up. You don't need a mask to matter. You never did. The real you, the one who doubts, learns, falls, and rises, is already enough. Perfection is performance. Authenticity is power. When you choose truth over image, you give permission for others to breathe again. You are capable of more than you think, not because you can become someone else, but because you can finally be yourself. And in a world addicted to illusion, being real is the rarest form of courage. Every era has its actors, but this one needs witnesses. People who see clearly, who refuse to clap for what isn't true. Be one of them. Stand still while the crowd performs. Stay honest when others compete. Because when the masks fall, and they always do, the only faces left standing will be those who never needed to hide. Subscribe if you believe in real human growth, because the world doesn't need more actors, it needs more humans.
Remember this, human growth isn't about being perfect. It's about refusing to stay small when you know you can be more. Every day you choose whether to protect your value or to give it away. And those choices, repeated over time, shape your future. So take what you've heard today and live it. Not tomorrow, not someday, now. Because time never waits, and neither should you. If this message spoke to you, subscribe and share it with someone who needs to hear it. Together, let's build a life of real strength, real discipline, and real growth.